Today, I'm going to go through my top 5 negotiation tips for home buyers in Scotland looking to buy and get on to the property ladder. The first tip that I'm going to give you is to do your research. That's the research of the local area. The reason that I believe that that's one of the first things that you should do is just to get an understanding and a feel for the place. It might be you need transport links and there aren't any. It might be that the roads get really, really busy around rush hour. You just don't know without doing your research, even if you think the house is lovely. So make sure that you're checking those kind of things out before opting to buy the property. Something that you don't want to find out after moving in is that the house that you've lived in or that you've bought, your dream home, actually isn't as good as what you first thought. Also, what you want to be considering is things like the schooling. For example, if you're moving house to settle down and put down roots and be close to schools and catchment areas, make sure that the catchment area that you're in is the one for the right school that you want, and make sure that that catchment isn't due to change, which has been happening recently in and around the central belt where catchment areas for schools have been changing. Do these things before you've even considered going to view properties, and it means that you won't be disappointed if you go and you view something and you really, really like it, and then decide further down the line, once you've done your research, that you don't want it. So tip number 1, do your research before going out to start viewings. Tip number 2 is to establish your budget and your priorities. Sometimes when I'm talking to clients, sometimes the budget that they have and the type of house that they want is out of their reach. So they need to start making compromises and start prioritizing things. So maybe they wanted a 3-bed with an ensuite and a conservatory or a separate dining room, and they need to compromise on that. They can maybe get a 3-bed with a dining room or a 3-bed with an ensuite, but within their budget, they can't get both. And it's about sitting down and prioritising what's more important to you. And it might even be the area. The area might be something that plays a part in that. So you might be thinking, well, I really want a house with all of this in it, but in the area that I want it, I'm not going to get it. So do you change the area that you're looking at? There's all of these things that you need to consider and weigh up what's more important to you. Also, budget plays a really, really big part. Now, by budget, I don't just mean how much you can afford or how much the house is going to cost you. I mean, how much are you actually willing to pay for that house and what things are going to need done when you move in. So if you're buying a house that you believe is worth about 200,000 and it's selling for 220, 230, and that's the standard, is it really worth it if you think it's only worth 200? So take that into consideration. Also, if you're planning to do work in the property, make sure that you're not overspending at the very, very start. Make sure that you're leaving yourself with enough funds to go in and buy. Now, what you could do in that scenario, if you're planning to put down a 10 or a 15% deposit, you could consider putting down a smaller deposit, maybe 5%, leaving yourself some money to do the house up in the way that you want it. This could result in your mortgage payments being higher. The total amount that you repay would be higher. So you need to weigh up all of these things before you consider what it is that you're looking to do and what it is that you're looking to buy. Tip number 3 is to be confident and assertive when you are placing your offer. Now, I don't really like the negotiations and the back and forth, and I much prefer this is my offer, take it or leave it, and if they don't take it, be prepared to walk away. I much prefer when you're as transparent as that. Now, a lot of estate agents will come back and see an offer as well. That's their first offer. They can probably go a wee bit more. If you're assertive and you put your first offer in, they reject it and you walk away, you go back to that same estate agent and do the same again. See, the next time you go, they're going to know that you're only going to be putting one offer in. So if they're trying to haggle with you, they know that there's no point because you're not going to do it. Many a time I've seen people stand their ground and receive a phone call an hour to 2 hours later to say, we've accepted your offer. So look at it from the point of view that, yeah, you can go in and you can go and negotiate and you can put your offer in and you can lowball the offer. If you're doing that, be prepared to get pulled up the way. But if you go in with what you believe is a fair offer, I would say stand your ground if you think that's the maximum that you're willing to go to. And you might just, in the off chance, get a phone call from the estate agent after saying no. You might get that phone call offering you the property. Doesn't always work, but being assertive, I believe, is key, especially when you're dealing with the same estate agent or different estate agents throughout a local area when they're selling properties. The next tip that I would give you is to understand why the seller is actually selling the home. So, are they selling because they don't like the area? Are they selling because they don't like the neighbours? Are they selling because they're upsizing, they're downsizing? All of these things you can establish when you go out to the viewings. So I would always ask the question why they're moving. Some key red flags to look out for. If someone's bought a house and they're looking to move maybe 3 months or 6 months later, they haven't really done much work to the house. They're not selling it for a huge profit, if any, and they're looking to move house to a new area. There must be a reason for it. Is it the upkeep of the property? Is there more work needed in it? Is it busier at peak times than what they thought? Is the transport links not as good? All of these kind of things you can establish and you should be asking to understand why the seller's actually selling. Now, 9 times out of 10, they're selling because they're either upsizing, downsizing, they want to live somewhere new, they're relocating. Most of the time, there's nothing untowards with it, but you really, really need to understand, and you don't want to be buying somebody else's problem. So make sure that you find out what the seller's motivation is. And the final tip, and I've already mentioned this, is be willing to walk away from the deal. If you feel that you are putting in fair offers and these offers are getting rejected, just be willing to walk away from it. Don't go above your budget just to get your house, because you'll often find that when you do that, you'll start to resent it as time goes on. So be willing to walk away. And if you can show that you're willing to walk away, in my experience, it's found that some people are able to overcome this and get their dream home. So that's my 5 key tips for negotiating. So they are: make sure you do your research, make sure that you've established your budget and your priorities, be confident when you're putting your offers in, understand the seller's motivation to sell, and be willing to walk away if you're not getting the deal that you're after.